What's up, everybody? Super WRX fan here for Mustang Weekly Update number 3 on this Friday. So, what's new with the Mustang? Not much. It's just past 1,600 miles, and it's nothing but smiles still, and it's just really great. One little update is that grinding kind of noise that I was hearing around the glove box area, that has kind of subsided and gone away. Some people said it might be connected to the heater, and I've experimented with that, and it seems like it's, even when the heater's on now, it's not making that noise. And it's not very consistent, but I haven't heard it this week for the most part, I think, so should be good on that. Yeah, I mean, the car is running great as well. I just still loving it, of course. It's so much fun. And so what I want to talk about this week, very briefly, because there's tons of news for the LA Auto Show this week I want to talk about, but what I want to talk about briefly is comparing this to the BRZ, because a lot of you have asked me, what is it like compared to the BRZ? And a lot of people that, a lot of you that have BRZs, and other people that are just looking at this car, they're also cross-shopping it with the BRZ and other cars like that. So I want to give a few little comparisons. Obviously, if you watched my review video this week, thanks to all of you that did. I very much appreciate that. But if you watched that video, then you'll hear a lot of my comments on how the car drives and all that kind of stuff. But I want to specifically talk about how it differs from the BRZ. So the first way that the BRZ differs from this car is, of course, the power. The power is so much more in this car, obviously. It has 110 horsepower more, and it has like double the torque of the BRZ. So it's just, it feels so much more powerful. And I will say, I'll just start off by saying that the one thing the BRZ does better than the Mustang is, of course, in the handling department. The BRZ is still one of the best handling cars I've ever driven. All sports cars considered that I've reviewed and stuff, the BRZ was one of the absolute best. It handled that well. It was so tail happy and so much fun. This car is also tail happy, of course, having as much power as it does. I haven't really pushed it too hard and broken the back end out too much, but it does handle really well still, and it's still very tail happy. With the BRZ, it's definitely the more sports car feeling car. It has much sharper handling, heavier steering, and the driving position itself was more aggressive in the BRZ. You're sitting really low, and there was all kinds of things like that the BRZ felt like a true sports car. This still has kind of a muscle car, pony car kind of feel to it, where you're sitting up higher. It's not quite as aggressive, it's more comfortable, and at this point in my life, that's just what I enjoy more. The BRZ, of course, there's nothing wrong with it. I love it, and I know all of you are loving your BRZ still. I still love the BRZ, and I just kind of wanted something different, and that kind of answers some of the questions that people have been asking recently. Some people have asked, why didn't you just buy a BRZ? Because it is the same price as the Mustang. I could have just gone right back into a BRZ, but I'd already owned one for 2 years. I loved it, but I just felt like I got more for my money with the Mustang, and I enjoyed the fact that it was a little more comfortable as well. But just having more power is just something that I really wanted, and so the Mustang really just fit that for me perfectly. Overall, though, I would just say that the BRZ was just a much sharper car. Not that the Mustang isn't sharp, it's just not as sharp as the BRZ. The BRZ set the bar really high, and it's pretty hard to match that. While we're discussing my car buying decisions, I'll also just very briefly mention why I don't drive a WRX, because a lot of the newer fans that have subscribed that haven't been watching the videos since the BRZ videos or the Legacy videos are probably wondering why my username is Super WRX fan when I don't drive a WRX. So very briefly, I'll just mention the few basic things. The WRX is a fantastic car. If I ever felt like I needed a four-door car, WRX would be my first choice probably. But at this point in my life, no kids or anything like that, I want to enjoy having two-door cars. I think two-door cars generally look more attractive and appealing to me, at least, and they're more fun and smaller. And I just a WRX is a great all-around car whenever you need back seats and all-wheel drive. Those are all things I don't need right now, and so as much as I love the WRX, I think that something like this Mustang, to me personally, is just suits my taste better at this point in my life. The minute that I need a four-door car, you better believe chances are I will probably be jumping right into a WRX or a WRX STI. But until that time, I'm enjoying the two-door cars, the BRZ, the Mini, the Mustang, all these smaller, more impractical cars, I guess you should say. So that's kind of why, just as a quick answer to those that were asking about that. So yeah, that's it for all the BRZ comparison and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to talk too long because we got lots of news to cover. So I'll send it back to me at the news desk for this week's news. Right, so for this week's news, lots of stuff to go over considering the LA Auto Show was this past week, and so all kinds of exciting and crazy news came out at LA. So the first thing is the Jaguar F-Type is now available with a manual transmission. It's amazing, and yes, it's real. It's finally happened. Jaguar is, of course, seen the light, and they were even quoted as saying, "We realize that in the sports car market, there are certain things that are needed, and a manual transmission is one of them." My hat's off to you, Jaguar. Thank you. This is what all the other sports car manufacturers seem to be forgetting, is that manual is still the most gratifying way to do it. And Jaguar, they said they could have included stuff like rev matching, downshifts and stuff for their manual, but they didn't because they said it's more rewarding for a manual transmission driver to not have any of that stuff. So you have to do the rev matching yourself. Everything, it's just very puristic in the way that they approach their manual, which I think is just so awesome. That just... Jaguar has so much respect for me right now, it's insane. So, unfortunately, the manual transmission is only available on the V6 version. So the V6 and the V6S get the manual transmission, and that's it. So as far as the V8s, they're still automatic only. But as far as the V8 versions are concerned, you can now get a convertible version of the F-Type R. So not, it used to be that you had to get the V8S for the convertible, but now you can get the R with the 550 tire smoking horsepower. But it's not tire smoking the same way it used to be, because now the V8 F-Types are all-wheel drive only. So if you want a rear-wheel drive F-Type, you now have to go and buy a V6, one of the slower ones. Now, okay, I was really upset about this when I first heard it too, but the thing is, they say that their all-wheel drive system for the F-Type is, its default setting is set at 100% of the torque goes to the rear wheels. So it acts exactly like a rear-wheel drive car unless there's slippage, and then it adds in the front wheels. So might be harder to do those drifts, but it's still very heavily rear-wheel drive biased in the way that it performs. So hopefully all the smoky burnouts and drifts and stuff that you could do in the F-Type R Coupe will still be possible. We'll have to wait and see if Chris Harris and all those guys can work their wonderful magic with an all-wheel drive version. But, yeah, so very interesting to see that. I'm still kind of upset they're not offering the R as a rear-wheel drive car still. But the all-wheel drive is very appealing. It's an option on the convertibles and the coupes. And the V6 also has the all-wheel drive as an option, but I believe the rear-wheel drive manual is the only combination. You can't get a manual all-wheel drive, I believe, just yet. Although they say they're working on all these different variables. They said that they've had challenges in the past and they have challenges in the future as far as making a manual that works with the V8, but they said that, they might actually make it happen as well with that. So, very exciting to see that. There's lots of news stories this week, but I had to just go into depth about this F-Type because that is amazing that they are bringing a manual to it. The next piece of exciting news is Ford debuted the new Shelby GT350 Mustang, and it is glorious. It looks so mean. It has these like fangs in the lower grille that are painted black. Looks awesome. It has these awesome fenders on it as well, and it sounds amazing. It has a flat plain crankshaft, and it's pretty insane the way that it sounds. It has an 8,200 RPM red line, it looks like, from one interior picture. They haven't officially released all the specifications for this car. They just said more than 500 horsepower, more than 400 pounds-feet of torque. That's all we really know about it. But man, does it look awesome, and it has a flat bottom wheel on the inside, and it has all kinds of other stuff. They have a magnetic ride suspension, very similar to the one in the Camaro that they're now including in this car. All kinds of interesting stuff like that, and oh man, it's just all kinds of awesome. I think that is awesome. So, yeah, awesome. And in some more awesome news, Volkswagen debuted the new Golf R at the Los Angeles Auto Show this week, and they've officially priced it at $36,595. That's before nav. You still have to get it. There's still options to get navigation, all that kind of stuff. So if you want a fully loaded one, you're looking at 40 grand. Which is a little bit pricey. It's the most powerful R that we've ever gotten here in the States. I mean, it's a great car, but is it 40 grand good? It still puts out less power than an STI does and stuff like that. So, I don't know. I think that Ford's going to change the game with the Focus RS here, which will probably be way faster and be way cheaper than this. But interesting to see that. One good bit of news about this R, though, that's kind of awesome, is that they're also introducing an R variant model, which is a wagon version. And pretty awesome. More wagons the better, right? So very cool to see the wagon version as well. Next is that Audi debuted a new concept called the Prologue concept, which is basically an A9 is what they're thinking it's going to be. It's a coupe, kind of going after the S-Class coupe kind of design, you know, as far as a swoopy, grand coupe, and that's kind of what they're going for with this. It looks beautiful. They say that this is going to be their next design language, and this is kind of what you can expect to see on future Audis, and if that's the case, it's great. It's a little less sci-fi than normal for Audi, but it still looks beautiful, and it's a lot more simplistic, I think, and a lot cleaner, and I really like the way that it looks. Very cool. While we're talking about luxury cars, how about Mercedes this week? They debuted the Mercedes-Maybach S600. So, we heard lots of talk about how they're bringing back the Maybach name, but it's not the way that we thought. So instead of making a whole new different car and a different brand, it's just a trim level of the normal S-Class, and it's just called the Mercedes-Maybach S600. So there's a Mercedes badge on it, just has a Maybach badge on the side and things like that. But it's elegant. It's just pimped out to the max on the inside. It's just... oh man, you look at the interior pictures, it's just glorious with all the quilted leather. It has quilted throw pillows, and it's just lavish times 100. And they're saying this would be around 200 grand. And honestly, that gives Bentley a run for their money. Not that a Bentley looks crappy inside, but a Bentley does not look that nice inside. Not that nice. It's just mind-blowing how beautiful you know, this car is going to be. You know, to ride in, and it's obviously very long. It's longer than the standard S-Class, and it's just pretty impressive. So very cool to see that. Another update, you know, last week I talked about the Subaru Visiv GT, which is just the Gran Turismo concept that it will never be made, and how striking it looks. And now we have pictures of the whole car. Well, not pictures. They're screenshots, I guess I should say, from the video game of this car driving around, and it looks all kinds of awesome now. With, you know, you can see every angle of it. It looks amazing. Like I said, Subaru, I know it's a far-fetched dream, but please one day build it and produce it, and the world will be a better place. And for some crazy cars at the Daily Auto Show, the first is that Toyota decided to promote the new SpongeBob movie with a Toyota Sienna that is really crazy looking. It even has like a captain's wheel for the steering wheel. And yeah, so just clearly a concept, but I thought that was funny to just mention very briefly. In some more cooler looking crazy concept, I mentioned last week briefly about the new Chevy, their version of the Gran Turismo Vision concept. You know, all these car makers are doing them, and they actually built one for this show. Obviously, I don't even know if it drives or anything. Obviously, they'll never build anything that looks remotely like this, but it's called the Chevrolet Chaparral 2X Vision Gran Turismo, and it looks all kinds of sweet. That looks like something you imagine driving in 30 years or 50 years in the future and stuff. Very, very futuristic looking and very, very cool. And some more normal Chevy news. They teased the next generation version of the Chevy Volt at a fan event in LA, and they just like picked up the little cover covering the front end. You can kind of see, you know, what it'll look like. It looks pretty good. It looks a lot like a Honda Civic to me, in my opinion, but it does look nice, and yeah, excited to see the rest of that car. And some other more conservative car news. Acura officially debuted the new Acura ILX. So, you know, the ILX hasn't been selling very well, and so for 2016 they've restyled it, and looks a lot like the TLX. Even has the same powertrain as the TLX. It's just a little bit smaller, of course. You know, so it has the 2.4 liter engine only. No manual transmission anymore, but they've included a new 8-speed dual clutch transmission instead, which is a lot more refined. And you know, a lot of people don't want a manual in an Acura, unfortunately, anymore, and so this will hopefully sell better. It looks better as well, and so good luck with Acura on the new ILX. Another concept that debuted this week was Lexus's LFC2 concept, which is essentially a convertible version of the RC coupe that we currently have out. And I don't know, it looks striking. It just looks really good. Maybe I've finally warmed over to the new Lexus design language. I think that is stunning looking. Another car that got an update this week at the Los Angeles Auto Show was the 2016 Ford Explorer, which has a new front end and slightly tweaked back end. And the big news here is that it's getting the Mustang EcoBoost motor. So it's going to have a 2.3 liter EcoBoost, just like the Mustang. And yeah, I mean, it's obviously it looks a little bit more bold in its grille and things like that, and a very nice looking car. Fiat has officially debuted the 500X as well, which is of course aiming at the Subaru XV Crosstrek and stuff like that. And it's going to be built right next to the Jeep Renegade and all those other little crossovers and stuff. And with how hot this small crossover segment is, maybe this will be a hit for Fiat. I hope so, because I think they really need to start, getting more sales, and so hopefully this does the trick for them. In other small crossover news, Mazda officially took the wrappings off the CX-3 so we can see it in all of its glorious angles, and I think this is the most attractive looking small crossover of the bunch so far. It looks really great, really good proportions even though it's a squashed little mini SUV. It looks really good, beautiful nose and everything. Next is the Bentley also debuted a new car at the LA Auto Show. It's called the Grand Convertible, and essentially it's a convertible version of a Mulsanne Speed Coupe. So it has the same powertrain as the Mulsanne Speed, same performance figures, things like that. Of course, it's finished in beautiful Bentley fashion and looks just really elegant and a nice alternative to the Rolls-Royce Wraith convertibles and stuff like that. And a not-so-beautiful car that debuted at LA this week was the 2016 Toyota Mirai, which is a $57,500 hydrogen car that looks hideous. It is the worst design, I think, in a long time. I mean, everyone is universally criticizing this car in the automotive world, and especially the back end. Just, I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing they were trying to make it look futuristic or something. It does look futuristic, but not in a good way. Just really strange looking, and I don't know. I feel like they may be going back to the drawing board with the design of that car. But cool to see a hydrogen car, though. I think the technology is great, and it's exciting to see. Leases are going to be around $500 a month for one of these if you want one, and you get free hydrogen fuel with it because they're trying to get these out there so badly. So very cool to see that. And for a few spy shots of cars that were running around this week. The first is the first prototype of the Bugatti Chiron was out caught. It had this weird camo that looks like it's just like a stylized paint job, but it was actually camouflage. It's actually a test mule with enormous brakes, and from what the spy photographer said, it actually has the same powertrain as the Veyron, 1,200 horsepower or so, but it also has a 300 horsepower electric hybrid system, so 1,500 horsepower in total. If that's the case, you may be able to see one of those in the decently near future. Because obviously if you're using the same powertrain as the Veyron, you don't have to really go back to the drawing board. They're just adding more power and giving it a new name. But hey, I'm not complaining. The Veyron's a spectacular car, and giving it 1,500 horsepower is going to be amazing. So very cool to see that. And more pedestrian car news. The next-gen Audi A4 was also spied. The car has been out since 2008, and it's desperately in need of a refresh and a totally new car. So, with all the awesome offerings, with Mercedes with the new C-Class, and, even Lexus, and all these other car manufacturers, it's time for Audi to have an update. And so the new A4 looks like it's going to be taking the same kind of headlights that you see in the new Audi TT. Same basic thing. I think they're going to kind of really lean heavily on the Audi TT design language for this new A4, and I think it's going to look really great. You can see it's probably going to be a little bit larger as well, yeah, really excited to see the production version of that too. Mercedes is also testing this crazy off-road version of the G63. What people are thinking is it's going to be like the six-wheeled version that they debuted last year, but that it's just going to be a four-wheel version, I guess, because it's really hard to drive a six-wheel car in somewhere that isn't like a huge desert area. So doing the normal four-wheel version, same crazy ride height and really bonkers off-road capability, and very cool to see that. Last bit of news is that there's a report here saying that BMW is going to be redoing their naming conventions, and so because of the slightly newer engines they'll be bringing in that are reworked, they're saying that cars like the BMW 2 Series could, instead of being the 228 and the 235, could be the 230i, and then the M240i instead of the 235. And then they're saying they do the same thing for the 3 Series and with 4 Series and all that kind of stuff, and making 440i's instead of 435s and stuff like that. It's all just a bit jumbled up in my opinion, but interesting to see, you know, they're reflecting those changes in their naming. So yeah, that's it for all the news this week, guys. I'll send it back to me in the car. Alright, so I'll leave you guys a little redline run here. I know last week I didn't go all the way to actual redline. I was shifting at $6,000 instead of 6,500. This time I'll shift at 6,500. And here we go. Second gear, wheel spin. Oh man, it's quick. That was seriously fast. I know, you know, some people have said how the power drops off. I feel like, because when I test drove the automatic version of the EcoBoost, the power did feel like it dropped off to me too. But the manual, for some reason, doesn't feel that way. It pulls strong all the way up to redline. I mean, you look at the dyno charts, and yes, the power does drop off. When you're driving it though, to me, it doesn't feel like there's this big, you know, power dip. Like the BRZ had a power dip, you know, and you could really notice that. But I can't really notice any lack of power when I get up to the higher RPM ranges. It's really spectacular. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next week. Take care.